All right. So how was one's weekend? What did you do? Anything memorable? Hi, John. Hi, Caressa. Hi, Brendan. Hi, Regina. Hi, Robert. Hi, Sam. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Doreen. Hi, Dennis. Hi, David. Hi, Anthony.
Hello.
All right. How was everyone's weekend? What did you do over the weekend?
Well, I helped my son move his stuff out of his dorm so he could come home for the summer.
Oh, okay. That's great. Anybody else? What did you do?
I just spent time with the
Hi
family.
there.
Hi. That's good, John. Hi, Leslie.
Hi. I went to an outdoor wedding
Oh, wow. Where?
on Wednesday. Down in Virginia, in the Richmond area.
Yeah. Good.
So that was nice.
Yeah.
I did my first cookout of the season yesterday.
Good, good, good. For me, I went to my son's high school graduation. So he graduated from Randolph-Macon Academy. Let me share some pictures. It's a military boarding school in Front Royal. And then I also went hiking because it's right by the Shenandoah Valley. So we did hiking at Buzzard Rock. Let me share some pictures here. So that's the young man. So, well, not technically officially off my payroll, but he's 18 now, so he's on his way out. And that's he's saluting his sister because my daughter also went to Randolph-Macon, so they were kind of saluting each other. And uh let's see. Okay, yeah, that's all of us. And that's my home family. This is everybody that showed up. We always shut the place down. So he wanted to have a red color scheme. So that was what we had going. And that's his uncle, aunt, aunt, ladies in red, Randolph-Macon Academy, friends. Yeah. So that's it pretty much. That's how my week went. We started we got there on Thursday and left on Sunday. So different things going on. All right, so let us get into today. We're going to be dealing with retirement planning and financial planning and core value exercise. Before that, I kind of wanted to do like an update on where things are, what's going on. So I invited Frank John, who is also a client, to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the real estate world. So, Frank, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what you would like to tell us about the real estate market.
Thanks, Abera. Again, my name is Frank John. I've been a client for many, many years. I also happen to own Washington Appraisal, which provides appraisal services in Washington, D.C., Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Charles County, and then in Virginia, Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax County. So metropolitan Washington, D.C. And have been doing this for over 30 years, believe it or not. I have some other interests and ventures as well, and depending on how much time Abera gives me, I might share a little bit of that. But I uploaded a video this morning, a real short, about the real estate market around Amazon's second headquarters in Arlington, or in what they're calling National Landing now. So I guess out of the spirit of I guess being brief and concise, it's probably easier to just show the 2-minute video, and then I'll be happy to entertain any questions that folks might have. Can you see my screen?
No,
Okay, hold on. Do I have privileges to
yes.
share?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And
Greetings, I'm Frank.
can you see that?
Fraser, Washington Appraisal.
Yes, we can see it
Outside
now.
of Amazon's second headquarters in Arlington, Virginia, in the area they're now sort of rebranded as National Landing. You may recall a few years ago where cities all across North America were trying to lure Amazon to opening their second headquarters in their respective cities. Well, they ended up here, which really should have been a surprise. Somebody recently asked me, what's the real estate market like around Amazon headquarters? I thought we'd take a look at that today.
Okay, now we're looking at houses within 1 mile of Amazon's HQ2. You see they're clustered sort of the south and southwest of the headquarters, which is here. We're looking at the last 12 months, and it's a pretty flat line, the trend line. Median home price is 1.1 million, and there are 43 sales over the 12-month period. Let's go back 7 years. I think that's when the whole hype began about Amazon opening another headquarters, and the cities around the country buying with tax breaks and all kinds of incentives. And you can see that there has been an increase. That's what's been happening over the last 7 years. So you've got pandemic, from March of 2020, you can see that there's really been no effect. It just increased from 18 on. Here we've got 10 years of data looking at a total of 502 sales, and single family houses back in 2016, they're low 800s, and now they're 1.2. And look at this, the days on market. Over many years, properties are selling within a week. So you've got very strong demand, limited inventory. Things move quickly in that area. So that's what we got. Hopefully I shed some light on the impact that Amazon's second headquarters has had on the real estate market in the area.
From outside of Amazon's second headquarters, I'll see you there.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Does anybody have any questions about Amazon, the impact, or any contributions that you want to make? Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sam, I had hey, Frank or Barry, quick question for Frank.
Mm-hmm.
So given just the overall cuts in the federal workforce and contracts, how do you project the demand to be in the next year or two?
Well, that's an interesting question that a lot of us are wondering about. I know when the news really hit, I was checking on the number of listings, across all the various, local jurisdictions. And it was surprising that, I guess, up until early May, there wasn't really an increase in the number of listings, and compare with last year and the previous years. So, a lot of the national press was indicating, oh, the market is, the listings are exploding because of, Doge and just all the, firings and all the concerns about folks, leaving, the federal government or whatever. And it just wasn't showing up. And then I was thinking about it. It's like, well, folks aren't going to immediately put their houses on the market for sale. They're going to look for another job. And it's going to take, months before it really makes a dramatic increase in the number of listings, if at all. Clearly there's a lot of concern and anxiety, and I get it. But it's not like we're seeing an explosion of houses on the market for sale yet. So my crystal ball is not very good. And so it's difficult for me to make projections, but we're just going to have to, monitor things over the next few months. And, hopefully folks will be able to find, other jobs and positions. It is stressful and a challenging period that a whole lot of us are going through. My business has been affected not so much by the you know letting go of employees or the climate of fear or concern. My business has been affected by the increase of interest rates beginning in March of 2022. So, we've had to sort of diversify our practice. So a lot of our business now is non-lender, because the lender business, folks refinancing and purchasing of homes has been down dramatically over the last couple of years. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's the way things are from, I guess, my vantage point right now.
Yep, got it.
For
Thank.
sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, I said, yep, you did. I think that's the best that we can look into the future, right, at this point. Thanks, Frank.
No problem.
Yeah, and then my question is, for those that are losing their jobs and are retiring, aren't they like good through September, which kind of lends itself to what you're saying, meaning if we're going to see any impact, it might not even be immediately. It might be next year, if anything, if they're not able to replace those jobs, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
most
think so.
of them are going to be paid through September. So for all intents and purposes, the income is still coming in. It's going to be after September that the impact now will be felt if they have not one retired and are gotten another job.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, Bear, I hinted to you that I've got something else going on. I don't know if this is the best time or if you want me to wait until the end. You tell me.
It depends on what it is. Let me I'll take a break in between and give it, what is it that you wanted to talk about?
Since we got so many investors here, I've got another a venture, Pan-African Real Estate Ventures, in which I partner with a developer in Cape Verde, which, is, I'm sure some of you know, is an island chain off the west coast of Africa. It's the African country closest to North America, South America, and the Caribbean. And it is absolutely stunning. So I've got a 2 or 3 minute sort of quick overview I can share. And Barry, it's fine if we want to do that
Yeah,
later.
we can do it at the end because we have other properties too that I wanted to talk about, some of our clients that have stuff on the market. So we can do all of that at once.
That's perfect.
Robert asked the question, do you have any predictions on interest rates going down anytime soon?
Again, I don't have any crystal ball, and I hate to prognosticate on what's going to happen in terms of interest rates, because I don't think anybody knows. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember 2 or 3 years ago, we were anticipating, interest rates coming down, and they were saying, oh, they're going to be, 4 cuts, they're going to be 6 cuts. And there were a couple of cuts, but it really hasn't dramatically impacted the mortgage rates. In fact, the last time that the rates went down a quarter, because there was so much concern about inflation, and the mortgage rates really track with the 10-year treasuries, and the Fed dropped short-term rates a quarter of a point, but the actual mortgage rates went up. So, and with all the concerns about the tariffs and the inflation that's likely to come with that, I'm not holding my breath on rate cuts unless we really do go into a recession, and then the Fed will have, I guess, if not the responsibility, they will then be looking to move the country beyond the recession by lowering rates. But I'm not holding my breath on that.
All right, thank you so much, Frank.
Hello,
Sure.
this is Anthony Collins. May I ask a question to John?
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Thank you. It seems like the Amazon second headquarters will basically benefit Crystal City, Pentagon City, Potomac Yards, those particular areas. My question to you is, what is your feeling as far as the market? You think it'll go to cater more towards condos and apartments versus single family homes?
You talking about in that particular area or
In that particular area or anything that's being impacted by the second headquarters of Amazon?
Oh, that's a good question. I also ran numbers on the condo market there. I just wanted to make sure that the video was as short and concise as possible. And the condo market is, been quite strong as well. Um, you know, I think the median sales price, if I can recall correctly, is about $600,000 for condominiums. Now, understand in the uh, data that I was pulling, it wasn't like I was going to do an appraisal. Well, if I'm doing an appraisal and the subject is a two-bedroom condo, I'm limiting, basically my comps to two-bedroom condos of a particular size. This was just, let's look at the entire single, in this case, the single family home market within a mile of Amazon's headquarters. And then did the same thing with the condos. And again, they were half the price of the single family houses. Now, the thing about the overall impact of Amazon's headquarters, we're going to see that over a number of years. I would anticipate you're going to see the same kind of thing, dynamic that you had in Seattle when Amazon really started expanding their footprint there. And then you've got the Virginia Tech uh, school, campus there off of Potomac Yards. So you're going to see, I would anticipate a lot of tech companies um, relocate. If they're going to come to, this part of the country, they're going to come and concentrate in that national landing area over the next, 5 to 10 years. And a lot of it is going to be, because you're going to have Virginia Tech, you're going to have graduates, coming out of that location, and then other companies are going to say, well, where are we going to want to, position ourselves in the DC market? And it makes sense. I thought if um, uh, the, what is it, um, Capitol Center, what are they calling the arena downtown where the Wizards play and the Caps? What's it? It's the
Yeah.
branding of that. Who's got the name rights on that? It's changed so many times over the years. They were talking about moving that to National Landing, and I think if that would have happened, that would have really seen a sort of a rush out of the city um, into the National Landing, Potomac Yards area. I'm kind of glad that it's going to stay in DC. But I think again, over the next 5, 10 years, you're going to see a lot of other corporations move, particularly tech related, their, offices around, Amazon's second headquarters.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, Capital One, I think. Thank you, Sam, for that. So we will get into our conversation. So regardless of where the market is going, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with jobs, at the end of the day, it's always very important that you take the time to know where things are for you financially. I have a lot of people who are approaching retirement or are at retirement or even maybe 10 years away from retirement. And there's always that concern, will I have enough for retirement? And sometimes not knowing can get people worried, can get people anxious. or you might be making decisions that are not based off of data. So for me, I usually say take a deep breath and let's look at the data. And to look at the data, what we need to calculate is your personal net worth. How much do you own? Right? So we'll look at how much money you have in your checking account, in your savings account, money market account. What is the cash value of your life insurance? And then also if you have term, I also put a side note, like how many more years do you have on the term insurance? We'll look at your brokerage accounts, retirements, traditional IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, SEP IRA, TSP, all of that to see how much you have in the retirement accounts. Do you have any annuities? What's the accumulated value? Any business ownership interest? Usually we're doing 1 times multiple, meaning if you had to sell your business out there in the market, how much would it be worth? And then real estate, of course, 90% of our clients are real estate investors. So we're looking at how much real estate you own, any other partnerships, joint ventures that you have. Then we will take a look at your assets that you have, your principal home, second home, vacation home, car, truck, jewelry, furnishings. And then we want to know what your total assets are. So the whole goal of going through this exercise is to figure out what your total assets are. Then we will look at your liabilities, any credit card balances, any home mortgages, any mortgages on your rental properties, car loans, student loan, life insurance policy loans. Then we get your liability. And then your assets minus your liabilities is your net worth. It helps us to know how much money you have right now, even if it's not liquid. Like if you were to sell off everything, how much are you worth? Because it kind of helps us to start to gauge how much more are you going to need when it is time to retire, or how much more do you need to start converting from active income to passive income to help you with retirement. Once we take a look at the balance sheet, we calculate your net worth and we know what that is. The next thing that we look at is your income statement. How much income are you going to generate during retirement? Or if you're getting military pay, VA pay, Social Security, any other type of income that you're going to generate, how much is that going to be? What are your expenses going to be? And then we look at what your net income is. Then we now do a ratio of what your net income is to what your net worth is. If it gets too complicated, we will refer you to a financial planner, but usually this is the first step because we kind of want to see where things are and to see, are you going to have enough to retire, or maybe, rather than fully retiring, are you going to be able to go from like a full-time job to a part-time job? Or is the business you're doing now going to be enough? Or is the assets you have now going to be enough? Or is the income that you're going to be generating, whether it's from Social Security? We also look at what the impact will be if you retired early and took your Social Security early. So usually coming up with your financial statement is the first step in retirement planning. So if you have not already done this during your business meeting, this is going to come up. If you're not planning to do the business meetings, we've been sending out emails every week requesting that everybody that is in the wealth building program to schedule your annual business meeting. We want to take a look at what you have in terms of your assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. We now come up with questions, concerns, everything that we need to address, to get you to that point where there's a level of comfort. For me, the issue is not necessarily shying away from what happens in retirement, but kind of knowing ahead of time what you have, and then how many years that you have to plan, what you have to go out there and generate, or some lifestyle decisions that you need to make in order to plan for retirement. A lot of us have rental properties. What is going to happen as you start to slow down? Do you still want to actively manage these rentals, or do you want to start converting them to cash, meaning you're going to sell them and now have cash? And if you're going to sell them, we are now having to deal with capital gains, or are we going to do a 1031 and push it out a little further? What is your legacy? What things are you planning, to leave for the children or nonprofit? So all of that is taken into account to come up with a retirement plan that works for where you are. So that's the first aspect of what we do when it comes to retirement planning. So I will pause here and then take any questions before we continue on. Okay, David, if you're on, can you please note that Eric hasn't gotten his email about setting up his business meeting? So maybe what I'll do, let me ask a question first. Does everybody here have a prepared financial statement? And if you don't have a prepared financial statement, would you like us to send you this Excel sheet so that you can start working on it? If you want to just put it in the chat, we'll get all the names and we'll start sending it out, to you. But it's very important that you take the time to start working on your financial statement. Any questions? Okay, Robert, I got you. Tanya, I got you. All right, Caressa, I got you. Sam, okay, I got you. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So I hope that the goal of this meeting is just to educate you in terms of the starting point for your retirement planning, kind of knowing where everything is. And it doesn't matter whether you're 40 or 60, this is the starting point. If you're 40, you have a lot of time, but you want to do this like every year, every 3 years or 5 years, get it updated. As you start approaching your 60s, maybe it's to start looking at it every year to get a sense of where things are. We also want to look at where things are financially in terms of if you're gonna, how much taxes are you gonna have to pay when you retire, in terms of dealing with that and preparing for that. Okay. So Dorothy says, I have a financial statement, but I would like to have the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I got you on that. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to look at is what we call core values. Thank you, Eric. So Eric says he's been doing that for the last 5 years. Eric, do you want to share with us what this has done for you? John, I believe you already had one because it's similar to the one that the financial planner Mark did for you, but I'll still send it, but it's kind of like the same thing, but I'll send you the Excel version. Eric, do you want to come on to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, how you've been doing it, and what information has it given you in preparing for retirement?
Yeah, can you hear me, Bear?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just giving me an idea of, well, first of all, just knowing my monthly core expenses, right?
Mhm.
So knowing where my money is going every month, and I do have some, some expenses that are not the core, but nonetheless, and also just knowing, my the total value of my assets versus my liabilities, because I'm actually looking to retire this year. So
Mhm.
actually, after this year, I'm done. So, so just knowing that, I have enough money coming in monthly to cover my core expenses, and also knowing, having an idea of not having an idea, but knowing my net worth, and also knowing the fact that, um, my savings over the years has allowed me to really be able to pay off all my liabilities. So I have a small mortgage and also a HELOC that I can pay off at any time. And so, yeah, so that information just has really allowed me to just manage my money pretty effectively and efficiently.
Thank you. And there was something very important that you said, which is it's enabled you to pay off your debt. There's some clients that when we work with them, we realize that what they need is not necessarily to invest their money, because they could invest their money in something that gives them like an 8% rate of return or 10% or 12%. But if you have loans out there where you have credit cards that are like 24% interest rate, 18% interest rate, like really high interest rate, every time you pay down your debt, you are increasing. Let me share this again. Every time you pay down your debt, you are increasing your net worth. Because here, the way that we calculate your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. Your assets minus your liability. So as your liability goes down, your net worth goes up. So it's two ways. You can increase your assets by increasing what you invest in. But if you have debt that is like a high interest rate, 16%, by paying it down, you are getting a 16% rate of return on that money that you were paying to the credit card company. So for every $100 that you pay down on the credit card debt, if it's a 16% interest rate, you're getting a 16% rate of return. So you can't say, oh, I have $10,000. Oh, I'm going to invest it in this vehicle and it's going to give me 10% rate of return when you have debt that is at a 16% rate of return. So you're better off paying down the credit card and increase your net worth than to try to increase your net worth by increasing your assets. Because you do that, you're still, let's say you have investment that is bringing back 10% rate of return, and you have a debt that interest rate is 16%. Even though you've increased your asset, you've lost 6%, right? Because you're paying out 16% and getting back 10%. So you're better off paying down, especially your high interest rate debt, increasing the amount of money that you have left. Once that is done, then you can put that into investments. And so that's why it's good to have a full picture of everything that you have and then start deciding, what do I need to increase or decrease, or what do I need to pay down, or do I need to go out and generate more money, or do I need to, there's some clients that we say, hey, whatever you make, $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year that you can just put away into any vehicle. As long as you're doing that, you should be good in 10 years or 20 years. And then they start doing that. They have a target number that they're working with. Any questions before we move on? Any comments?
Yeah, Bear. So, and I don't know if you have any other clients besides myself who actually has invested in crypto, but do you have like any information pertaining to how one would actually cash out the crypto while limiting their tax requirement on that investment?
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something the next thing that I'm gonna look into is, one, when you are planning for retirement, you want 3 classes of income when you are retiring. So you want taxable income, you want tax deferred income, and then you want non-taxable income. So when we look at your income on the side, when we start looking at this income statement, we are looking at which of the income are you generating is taxable, meaning you're going to get the income, but you have to pay taxes on it every year. Which one is tax deferred, meaning the asset is growing, like for example, in your retirement account, in your IRA or your 401k, the income is growing, but it's tax deferred. And then which one is non-taxable? If you invest money in a life insurance plan where you're able to get benefit, what we call living benefits, that will be tax-free upon retirement. So having those 3 classes of income in your portfolio would significantly help. Now, to answer Eric's question, unfortunately, when you sell crypto, you are going to have capital gains. Now, I don't know what the rules are yet, but if you have capital gains, you are able to invest in the qualified opportunity zone. I think there's only 1 year left before you have to now pay capital gains on that. So that's one way of deferring the capital gain. The other thing is, it depends on your taxable income. If your taxable income comes under $70,000 if you're married, or $40,000 if you're single, you may not pay taxes at all. So part of the strategy could be to look at what your current taxable income is, not adjusted gross income, but taxable income, to see whether the sale of any crypto can still put you under that limit where you're not paying any taxes. Otherwise, you can look at doing an exchange and exchanging it into a qualified opportunity zone. I know that there's all these extensions and stuff that are being done to the tax provisions. I don't know what the final one yet is yet, or whether or not the qualified opportunity zones are going to be extended out, because I know that they end at the end of this year. If that does, and you do sell some crypto, one of the ways that you can defer the taxes is to put it into a qualified opportunity zone. Other than that, if you do sell a crypto, you will have capital gains. So part of the analysis when we do the year-end tax planning analysis is how much can you sell, to be able to stay under a certain income bracket. Outside of looking at that income bracket is also looking at, do you have some losses, some crypto losses, where if you sell the ones that have capital gains, maybe that might be the time to liquidate the ones that have the losses in order to have them wash each other out. Any questions, comments before we move on? So please pay attention. Part of this analysis, what's going to be going on in your meeting is we are going to be looking at the 3 sources of income that you have. What's taxable, what's tax deferred, what's non-taxable, and to see whether you need to start moving some of your income from taxable to tax deferred, or from tax deferred to non-taxable. All right, the next thing that we look at is your core values. Let me pull that up. Okay. So we go through what we call a core value exercise. So if you want to be the best in the various roles that you're living in alignment, whether it's your family, whether it's charity, whether it's children, your job, vacation, anything that you desire to do, you want to do it from a place of your core values. So what we usually do is to ask you to look at all the core values that are possibly out there. These are just examples, right? From that, you select the 15 that resonates with you the most. And then from those 15 core values, you select the 7 that are important to you. And then we go from 15 values to 10, from 10 to 5. Every time you make a financial decision, as you're looking at your financial statement, we are looking at, are you making decisions based off of your core value? If one of your core values is that, hey, when I retire, I want to be able to give back. Well, if you're going to give back, you need to have enough income and financial independence so that when you retire, you no longer have the need to work. So how are you setting up your financial statement in light of that core value? So if you're interested in going through this core value exercise, you can also put in the chat and we will send that out to you. Some of you have already started doing it and we will cover it during your business meeting. But these are some things, just giving you examples of some things that we cover during the core values. Like, do you like autonomy? Like placing importance on freedom? Do you like challenges? Do you like change? Like if you're somebody that doesn't like change, you don't want to move, you're going to stay in the same house. Plans need to be made for your retirement so that you are able to stay in the same house. If you don't want to go to like a retirement home or any of that stuff, and the kids are like, no, you're not coming here anyway. So all those decisions will need to be made in light of your core values. And now is the time to start documenting it so that you are able to fully articulate what it is that you want. Is community important to you? Competence, competition. So there are several of them. Your environment, is ethics important? Excellence, fairness, family, flexibility, freedom. So for me, one of the core values that I wrote down for myself is community. But I realized that I didn't just want to be part of a community to just say I'm part of a community. I wanted to be part of an interdependent community, meaning that we rely on each other. I can rely on you, you can rely on me. It's not one person taking advantage of the other. So I updated my core value to say interdependent community. It wasn't just about community, but it was about having an interdependent community. So it's possible for you to have adjectives to qualify what you mean. That's why you start out with your top 15, leave it alone, come back to it, and then top 10, and then 5. So I'm just showing them freedom, friendship, happiness, honesty, integrity, meaningful work, play, pleasure, privacy, recognition, relationships, religion, spirituality, stability, wealth, work, and you can, add to the list. But it's important that as you're planning for retirement, as you're doing your financial planning, that you pause and take the time to write down your core values. A lot of financial decisions that people make are emotional. That's the reason why y'all stress me out during tax season. Even though we have 4 months to get, well, 3 months, if we say we get all our documents by January 31st, it's the emotional hype of getting it done April 15th is why a lot of people are sending their documents April 1st and not realizing that everybody else is like that. And then, of course, the IRS has created this frenzy around April 15th. So most people are concerned with tax compliance. Actually, let me give you guys a little bit of information. Do you know that in reality, it doesn't matter if you file your taxes by April 15th? First of all, how many of you know that April 15th doesn't really do much for you if you're getting let's deal with those that are getting a refund. Do you know that if you don't file your taxes by April 15th and you are getting a refund, it doesn't matter, that you have more time to get it done? How many of us know that? All right, let's see here. I got you, Lynn, Dorothy, Caressa, Donna. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. Jeff, Jeff, I think we're still working on your 2024 tax return, but I'll have, I believe it's Nicole that's working on your return, so I'll have her look into that. So if you are getting a tax refund, you have 3 years to file, right? You have 3 years to file. You do not have to file it by April 15th. So if you look at it, every single person that is getting a tax refund and rushing to get their taxes filed by April 15th, you are just reacting to the emotional frenzy that one, the IRS has set up to create fear, or just going with what everybody else is doing. But that date does not mean anything to you. Here's the other thing. If you're getting a refund, did you know you did not have to file extensions? Filing extensions is just window dressing. So a lot of people will reach out to us. I'm not able to get my tax returns done. Please help me file extensions. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really do anything for you. But you know why we still file it? We realize that when it comes to money, a lot of people make emotional decisions and not factual decisions. That's the reason why your core values, your financial statement is important. And then the knowledge that we're sharing so that you're making decisions from a position of advantage, not a position of fear. Now let's talk about those who typically owe. Do you know that if you owe, that filing an extension by April 15th does nothing for you? Or even filing the tax return by April 15th does nothing for you? How many of you knew that if you're owing? It does nothing for you if you file your taxes by April 15th.
Yep, I did.
Okay. So the reason why it doesn't matter is because extending the time to file does not extend the time to pay. If you are owing, you need to pay what you owe before April 15th in order not to incur a penalty or interest. So we have a lot of people calling saying, oh, I'm not gonna be able to make it. Can you just put in an extension for me? It's just window dressing. Because if we put in an extension and you did not make a payment and you owed, it's irrelevant. If you file in September, you are going to get charged 5 months of interest. If you file in October, now, because I'm dealing with real estate investors, some people don't care because the amount of money that they lose by trying to pay their taxes by April 15th, they figured pay taxes April 15th or pay it out later on in the year. That difference, I can use that money and invest in real estate, do one rehab deal. I'll just deal with the interest later. And when we calculated, we find out that the interest that they would have to pay Uncle Sam for not paying their taxes is less than if they had to go out and borrow the money. But again, it's sitting down and systematically analyzing these things. So one of the things that you could do this year is to look. Now, I want you to file your returns on time. But I'm one, I tell you guys the truth. I'm not here. We've built this business on honesty. Whether you file your return in March or you file it in June or you file it in October, it really doesn't matter to us. But we are better off serving you if we file your taxes when it's not busy. If you're rushing for us to file your taxes by April 15th, I don't care what anybody says, it increases the chances of making mistakes. Because can you imagine having to file 100 returns versus 4 or 5 returns when it's not busy? So if you really wanted us to focus on your return and give you the attention that you need, it's better that you get your returns filed before March 20th. If you don't file it before March 20th, just file an extension and deal with it later on. When it's not busy, we can concentrate, we can focus, we can look, because everybody else is trying to deal with the April 15th deadline. This is the reason why it's very important that you are equipped with the knowledge of your core values, financial statements, and even what is going on in terms of compliance so that you're not making emotional decisions. Just like people are making emotional decisions when it comes to how they file their taxes or how they interact with their CPA, a lot of people just see us as tax preparers. Just get the job done. Keep me out of jail. I don't want to be near Baba. I don't want all of that. You do all that's fine. But really, the value that we bring to the table is tax planning, which is coming up with strategies to help you minimize your taxes. That's why our year-end tax planning is very critical. So I just wanted to give you guys this information. We are going to be concluding soon, but I will open it up to any general questions that you have. And then I want anybody that has any deal. I know Frank has something. I know a couple of other clients have some deals. I can let you present it at this point. Any questions? Any other topic you wanted me to cover when it comes to financial planning, retirement planning, and all of that?
Hi,
Dorothy,
Abera.
I can see you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Thank you for the opportunity to let me ask this question. On your last week webinar, you talked about the project at 300 Renton,
Mhm.
a Renton house. Okay. And you said that, or the email that you sent around prior to that said that the estimated renovation costs are going to be $250,000 and
Mhm.
is considered to be a mid-level
Mhm.
renovation. And I was looking at the pictures, and I noticed that the basement is finished, and I noticed that it had a HVAC system in place. So my question is, if it were a full gut, what would the renovation cost be as opposed to $250,000?
I'm
I
not.
can take that. I'm on here. I'm on here. Femi's on here. Hi.
Oh,
Hi,
okay.
Femi.
Hi. Yeah. So, good question. If it were to be full
Thank
gut,
you.
probably going to be around 350 or more. Because you have to
Really?
think about where, even though the as you say from the pictures, right? The
Yes.
house has HVAC and all that. The HVAC oftentimes, because the old house, they haven't updated.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw there was a radiator eating there.
I
There was
did.
some,
Oh, okay.
uh, um, contraption heating thing in the basement. I don't know if you saw that right near the fire. The fireplace was in
I
that house.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
So
you
all
said.
of those usually the reason why it's 250, you're gonna have to upgrade all of that to code, right? Because a lot of houses in DC, they're old. So some of the once you're doing a renovation, you always want to make sure the houses are up to code. So that's why it's that much. If it's a full GOT, which is you're taking out everything and redesign and all that, it's gonna probably be 300 or 350 or upwards.
Okay,
So that's kind of the difference.
okay. Thank
Um,
you.
Yeah, and again, the 250 also is also being very conservative too. So oftentimes, again, once we get in there and you get a contractor in there and you start working, there may be areas where you could save money and things like that, right? But you don't want to under budget.
Right.
You want to over budget and underspend, but you don't want to under budget and then overspend, right? So you
Okay,
kind of always find the balance there.
okay.
Yeah, I hope
Thank
that's the
you for
question.
answering that.
Yeah, yeah,
That was good. Thank you.
yeah. You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? I see where Jeff was asking what's the fee for the late payment when filing? It's interest of about 5% and then the penalty, sorry, I said late payment penalty of another 5%. So you're looking about 10%, but it's annualized in terms of what we have. All right, we have Sam and then we'll take Arlene.
Hey, Barry. Just given the new administration, are you hearing about any rumblings of new or changes to the tax laws now or for next year?
Yeah, there's something that has already gone out, but again, these things have not yet passed. And for me, I don't already have enough problems in my world. I don't look at these laws until it passes. I don't get into that frenzy because a lot could change before it goes through all the gyrations and there's a final that is passed. So there's some things that have been proposed. It's still very early to decide whether or not it's going to make it or not. So I usually don't look at those things until it passes.
Got it.
All right, Arlene. Arlene, you need to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bear, I've been with you for a long time, and I really appreciate you working with me because I'm one of those last minute tax filers, and you always seem to accommodate me. But I was wondering, based on what you have taught today about being more susceptible to errors if you're one of those last minute people. Is it possible for you to just cut us off and say, no, I'm not even going to attempt because my workload is so heavy that I may make errors because I guess the reason why I'm asking is because we may end up overpaying because there's an error and may leave ourselves more open to audit as well. And so I appreciate your honesty as far as letting us know that, but there may be some others who are not aware of that, who are not on this call, and they may be last minute. And maybe it would be a good idea to just cut off and say, no, you're too late. We're going to have to file an extension and go from there.
We do offer that to clients because pretty much like you said, I know my client. So if I know that your return is complicated, we usually start making that call and asking ahead of time, are you getting your documents? If we don't have it by this time, we absolutely have to extend. Now, not everybody falls into that category. There's some people who have really simple returns. I have people who send me their returns in February. If they don't send their stuff by March 15th, we can complete it. But there's some people who would send in their return April 12th, and we're still able to get it done because it's not complicated. But for each client, it's kind of like a facts and circumstances. We've had clients where we say, we absolutely prefer that you finish your return afterwards, and they prefer to just finish it because they have other things going, or they might need financing. Some are even willing to pay an expedited fee to be, put in front of the line. So we prepare the return. We still do our due diligence, but there's nothing like when I'm relaxed, I can look at your return to see not even just for errors, but more tax planning strategy. That's really my concern. I'm not able to do tax planning between March 15th and April 15th. And so when I say errors or things, it's more like things that could be missed because you're just dealing with the compliance aspect and not necessarily the tax planning aspect. So you can submit a complete and accurate return, but had you given it time, there are deductions that you could have gotten, more things that could be done. But because we're rushing to just deal with compliance, we do what needs to be done to get the returns turned in. And it's a facts and circumstances. I can tell you how many clients we tell it is better that you wait and file your returns after April 15th. And they insist that they want to finish. And there's some others that we let know, hey, if by this time you don't send it in, I absolutely am not able to do anything about your return. So it's, you know, it's on a case by case basis. But
Okay,
good question.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Frank, do you want to, Frank, let me present this real quick and then you can go. I have a client who has a duplex in Cumberland, Maryland. So just showing you guys pictures real quick. And I will put the MLS listing in the chat. If you're interested in taking a look at the property you're talking, because he's my client, just reach out to me. And yeah, it's a duplex. And he has it at 215. Currently has tenants in there. Just reach out to me and I will connect you with him. David, if you also have the listing for Cola, I believe Cola Falobi also had a property that he wanted us to talk about. Okay, Frank, you can present as we get ready to wrap up.
Okay, great. Thanks, Vera. I wanted to share with you all opportunities to invest in beautiful Cabo Verde or Cape Verde. Luxury villas and condos in an African island paradise. And for those, some of you I'm sure are familiar, it is located just west of Senegal in the Atlantic. And it's actually made up of 10 islands. It's a fast-growing investment hub known for strong tourism growth. Millions of annual visitors drive property demand there. A lot of European cities have direct flights to Cape Verde. London, Paris, Barcelona, Munich, etc. From Americans, even though Cape Verde is the African country closest to America and South America and the Caribbean, right now we're flying through from Dulles to Portugal and then flying to Cape Verde. It's 7 hours total. Business, stable and business friendly economic environment. Now, this project is off plan. In other words, you're buying it upfront and based on the plans and specifications. A lot of the infrastructure has already been placed in place now. So what happens is and a lot of you I know this from experience here, you're basically buying it at a discount up front, and then as the project goes toward completion, the developer is going to be increasing the prices. So by the time the project, is completed in 2027, you'll have equity. And there's a mix of 32 villas, and then there's 77 condos. The condo building has, garage spaces underneath, swimming pool. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's incredible. You got mountains, you got beautiful beaches. It's just, stunning. And, if you wanted to be here part of the year, you could have, them rented out on Airbnb or Vrbo or one of those short-term platforms. And this is a real short video. I don't know if the audio is going to be available, but I'll try it. Can you hear it?
No, we can't. But what you can
Okay.
do is you can send me the link and then we'll do a blast.
That's fine. That
Yeah,
sounds great.
and it could even reach a wider audience, more than everybody that's even on the call. All right.
All
I
right.
have another one. I have another client who has, this ones are just rental properties in Baltimore, Maryland. And Holland Street is a zero, I can't tell. Holland Street, so 3 units, but that's Jonathan, who's also a client, has that listed. Calvert Avenue, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Calvert Unit 3, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Again, if you're looking for rental properties for your clients or anybody else, please feel free to reach out and we will connect you. We will send all these as a blast. And then the last one that I wanted to end with is the one that I'm actively involved in, is the property that we have in DC that we are looking to raise funds for. I am actively involved with Femi on that. We're doing this project together. So if you have already gotten the presentation last week, you are free to leave. But if you wanted to give us just 3 or 4 more minutes, Femi will present quickly, take any questions, and then we are done. Again, see you next week. We have more topics coming. We're going to have a special guest next week and just interviewing them about their business and how their business has been going and how, real estate, I'm having a team and all of that. That's where we're going to cover next week. So go ahead, Femi. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just realized I'm muted. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Thank you, everyone. Again, happy to take questions for folks who've gone through this before, but I'll quickly I'll try to run through this a little slower than before. Again, as Mr. Berry mentioned, we're working on this together. We're trying to raise funds. Essentially, we're trying to raise debt funds, have people lend towards the project. It's located in DC. Let me see. There we go. So the strategy is to buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, which is a BRRRR. I think a lot of people kind of are familiar with that term. That's the address. What the fund we're trying to raise is a total of $428,238. Again, this is essentially a debt into the project, and investors or lenders will receive an 8% return on their investments. All right. So, for example, if you invest $100,000, you get $8,000. And again, this is way much more than what you would get with a CD or high yield savings. I actually have some links in there that kind of tracks high yield savings right now. I think the highest you get right now is about 4%. So this is essentially double if you have your money sitting in a CD or high yield savings. You're going to be getting kind of double return on this. So we're still kind of looking to raise funds for this. So this is the property description. Again, I think some of the pictures that were mentioned earlier in the question, whoever asked the question earlier. Again, there's going to need to be an update to the kitchen, update to the bathrooms, update to the HVAC, and some plumbing, and all of the work description is here in the deck as well in terms of what work is going to be done. Bathroom upgrades, modernizing the kitchen. Kind of again refurbishing the basement, electrical system upgrade, plumbing upgrades, HVAC, and all those other things. Again, this is currently a 5 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. We're trying to convert it to a 7 bedroom, 4 bathroom house. So again, this is kind of a high level as well, also on in terms of what the purchase price is. The rehab costs, as we've talked about, the after repair value, which is essentially what the estimated appraisal of the house is going to be after it's been completed, is around $1.1 million. So the exit strategy here for those investing, the exit strategy, there are 2 options. So the first option is to refinance. We do a cash out refinance and then pay all the lenders or folks who are lending, invest in the project by lending their capital they invested plus the 8% as well. Or again, it could also be a sale as well. As you can see, the value of the house is way more than what we'll be using to purchase and also do the renovation. Again, this is the project costs as well. I think again, kind of ran through this last week. The purchase price is $559. The rehab estimated rehab cost is $250. We have closing costs, holding costs. The estimated timeline kind of for the rehab is about 6 months is what we're projecting. Again, if, plus or minus a month or two, if all things being equal. And then you have the total project costs, and then we have a rehab contingency as well. Again, this the fundraise is for 428,238 at 8%. And this is the 428. This is what that's going to essentially go to down payment, purchase down payment, the closing costs, rehab costs, contingencies, and the contingency rather, and the holding costs as well. So the first option, again, we talked about is to lend to the project. The ask is a minimum of $50,000. Again, 8% return, better than anything you're going to be getting in kind of any savings or CDs currently. And it's a low risk because it's backed by it's collateralized by the asset itself, and there's that guaranteed exit of the refinance or the sale. Excuse me. So again, I want to also stress this as well that we're asking for a 12-month term, but again, this should be, and that's just again being conservative and kind of giving room for if there are any potential delays. But usually our projects that we've done before is usually again 6 months or even less than that. I think the last project, which I think we have an example here, was about 4 months in terms of the from purchase to rehab. Was the renovation was completed in 4 months. So we have a track record of being able to do that quickly, and potentially you could even recycle the money, right? If we're done in 4 to 6 months, can recycle the funds again for another project or another deal, which essentially you'll be getting another 8% on, which is 16% on within 12 months. So that's potentially. But again, the actual term is 12 months just to make room for any potential delays that may happen. There's another option for those who may not be able to meet the minimum lent in terms of the $50,000 for kind of a BRRRR coaching for those who are interested. Kind of look over my shoulder, kind of thing, to be a part of the process. Again, there's not going to be any return on this. You don't get any return on investment, but this is essentially a fee to be able to just be part of the kind of the project management and overseeing the project from start to finish as well. It's kind of gain experience and also kind of get hands-on experience and see the project all through and going through a BRRRR. If that's something you're interested in doing, that's another opportunity to be able to participate as well. So this is the last project I mentioned. Again, this was purchased. This was also DC, Northeast DC. I purchased October 2023. Renovation was completed by February. Did rent and then did refinance and essentially cashed out and exited. And we're trying to kind of repeat that. And this was a 520 purchase, rehab, similar rehab, a 4, 3.5 to a 6 for bath. And the ARV was for that one was $1 million. So yeah, I'll take any questions if anyone has any further questions or inquiries.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Femi or Frank as we wrap up? Can you drop the contact form in the link for
Sure.
those who might be interested?
I'll do that.
Any questions for Abera? Any questions for Frank? Any questions for Femi or anything else before we round up? Okay, it was nice hanging out with you guys. See you next week.
Thanks, Abera.
You're welcome.